Shake, rattle, and troll.
It's time for the award-winning Shake, Rattle, and Troll. A show for the serious fishermen as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros. Shake, Rattle, and Troll brought to you by Bill Luke Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. I-17 and Camelback Road since 1927.
Yeah, we got the power, we got the speed. We're running wide open on a midsummer breeze. Freshwater, saltwater, watch out, boys. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. It's me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and
now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman, the man that fears no fish, Bass Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm Don McDowell. Yes, and the voice of moderation and reason.
Morning, Bass Daddy.
Special K, what's happening?
Not a lot. How about yourself?
It's going to be an interesting day.
A precursor of things to come. Correct?
Well, we have a very special guest in the house today, Alexandra May Hunter, and I want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
She is, in my opinion, one of the leading experts on geoengineering, a.k.a. climate change, weather control. We're going to tie this back into all the things that you and I in our wildlife conservation organizations are fighting. You know, we're fighting the tail of the snake. We're going to get right down today to the head of the snake.
That's called the pregnant pause. I'm just kind of waiting for the roll.
Yeah, waiting for the bomb to drop. Well, we've been fighting a lot of stuff, J.K. You know, you've been pretty good about not engaging in Agenda 21. I'm the one that said it, talking about climate change, this change, that change, and I find it very interesting that the current Obama administration is really pushing what George H.W. Bush and Clinton did in 1992 with the UN resolution on Agenda 21. We're going to get into that. I've talked to several state officials, government organization officials, both on a local, state, and federal level, and they go, What's Agenda 21? I'm going, yeah, okay. Well, as I explained to them, that's all the stuff you guys are doing to us. That's all the stuff that we're fighting for you not to do. And may I call you Lexie?
Sure.
Thank you. Lexie's, I've seen some of the work that she's done, read at least 300 pages, and thank you for sending me all that.
I just preferred to watch the movie.
Thursday night, we did. There was a screening of a film called Look Up, getting into the depths of climate change. And, I find it interesting as I listen to Obama beat the climate control drum. UN's got I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, December 2015, another climate change summit. The Pope is coming to the United States to speak to Congress for the first time in American history. It's interesting. Pope Francis has now become an expert weatherman. Is going to talk about climate change. He's also going to talk about open borders, and my only comment relative to open borders, if they want open borders, they need to take the walls to the Vatican down so we can see what they're doing.
There you go.
And let everybody in to the Vatican.
Now, just because the Roman Catholic Church is the world's richest organization doesn't give you the ability to say that. Now, I am a Catholic.
I am not.
There you go. See,
I don't have the ability.
I get to poke at us.
Look, I don't have the ability to sin all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, give them $20, light a candle. Whoo, I'm going to go for another 6 days.
Yeah, but you got to confess it to somebody. Come on. And you have to have remorse in your heart. That's where I get you.
So you're a remorseful soul.
On many occasions.
Yeah. There'll be a special film at 11 on that. Okay, McDowell Mountain Preserve, big deal going on. And Thursday night, we both had meetings. Lexie had the screening of Look Up. We both went and did
I sashayed out to Pinnacle Peak Road and sat with the crew of Snotsdale and talked about the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. And they wanted to know what Buffy would think if she saw a man with a weapon in the McDowell Sonoran Preserves.
Clad in camo.
Clad in camo.
Oh, pray tell.
How disgusting. So it wasn't a good thing, but I have to give them credit.
I have to ask, was our good friend Michael Mayer there?
Of course he was.
The
Michael Mayer showed again. However, the word was silence. He came in. Dustin from the Game and Fish Department, I can't ever remember Dustin's last name, but he gave the report. They did the aerial surveys. They did the flyovers. They counted over 260 deer, of which, most important to you and I, there are 80 bucks hanging out there. 40 to 100 buck to doe ratios, which to me is salivating time.
Say that again.
40 to 100. 40 bucks per 100 does, which means
each guy
like only has 2.5 girlfriends.
Friday night, man.
Oh yeah, considering it. And then the department, of course, made famous by saying we only need 12, or according to former Commissioner Hernbrode, $10 per 100 does can satisfy the breeding needs. That's what he said, 9-10 years ago.
It's always good to satisfy the breeding needs.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
I'm saying so that, but at any rate, the whole gist of the conversation was that the deer and javelina herds are alive and well in the McDowell Sonoran preserves. I saw aerial blue dots as to where they're hanging out. I can be bought, just so you know, if you're interested.
GPS points?
GPS points. And
how much of a hike is it to get there?
Further than you want to go, and more than the 90 stories I do every Sunday.
Okay, roger that.
All right. And then last but not least, Michael Mayer came in, sat down, viewed the report, and walked out without saying a word, which is a first for all of us. We were all grateful. Yeah, he did not say a single word. The evidence is there. It's clearly there. The herd size is growing. His claims of no wildlife or no animals is by the wayside. And since the state has given the Arizona Game and Fish Department to manage all wildlife in our state, they can say nothing more. So we're done. End of story. We will keep doing a flyover for another 2 years, and the city of Scottsdale is going to post some signage that indicates that the Neanderthal types, you and I, may have the ability to be out there with weapons. And I have to give a little anecdote. The one commissioner who wanted to know, now these animals, they weigh like 70 to 80.
Now, which commissioner is this? It's not a game commissioner.
No. This is the commissioners for the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. Said, don't these animals weigh like 70 to 100 pounds, and how do they get them out of there?
Oh, do tell.
Do tell. And, well, Dustin, of course, did his best not to laugh and indicated that perhaps 70 to 100 pounds is what comes out on a hunter's back. Do they butcher them out there? Yes, they do, Billy. They butcher them out there. So that's the end of the story. We are unknown. We are operating on the premise that the Game and Fish Department knows best. And no matter how much the Sonoran Preserve doesn't want us out there, we have every right to be there. And we'll continue to do so. End of it.
No shots fired. All right. Good stuff. All right, Miss Lexie. Where are you going to take us today? Just a brief overview. We're going to flip into a break in a couple of minutes. Then we'll get into the bowels of climate change.
Well, I'd like to give some background on what's happened here in Arizona. I'd like to talk about the agendas and.
Let's get a little brief bio. I have a lengthy bio here that'll take at least 45 minutes to go through, but a condensed version of your background.
I've been a law practitioner for about 24 years. I have a subspecialty in environmental law. 3 years ago, I realized what was going on with the geoengineering, and so I started to research the issue. And I've spent 3 years, about 30,000 hours investigating it, and going to a lot of the people that were sort of the leaders in the movement, content experts, to ascertain whether or not this is real. And my conclusion is that, this is not a conspiracy. This is factual of what is happening. So that's who I am. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I'm a United States citizen, and I'm concerned about our environment and people's health and the economic duress that this program is causing for everyone.
How long, in your opinion, has this been going on?
I think it's been going on for about 40 years. I think they really started to ramp it up in the late 90s. And obviously now they're accelerating the program. I mean, I see it every day here There's not a day that it doesn't go by that I'm not bearing witness to it.
When it started, what was, in your opinion, the primary mission?
Well, in essence, it's supposed to be for weather modification, but it's obviously a military-industrial complex program. It's a military defense system. So, we can talk.
I was trying to explain to JK the other day, at the height of this, if I want to come over and attack JK land, I don't have to send tomahawks or troops on the ground. I'm going to send him a hurricane followed up with a drought. You're done.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Back to you.
Okay, well, there's 7 agendas that I spoke about the other night. Do you want me to go into that now?
No, we've got to flip into a break. Just the 7 agendas I found, I hadn't heard that before. And like John, I got there a little bit late, but the episode portion of the film that I saw was pretty similar to the panel that you had up in Kingman some time ago. And I don't know how much of the film was actually staged. Kingman wasn't staged, and I was dumbfounded at the information that came out from the public, the lack of engagement on ADEQ and some of the officials. But we're going to flip into a break, and thanks to our sponsors, Bill Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, I-17 and West Camelback Road since 1927. The new Rams are out, the Eco Diesel. Check them out. I'm Don McDowell here with
Voice of Moderation and Reason.
And
Lexie Hunter.
We'll be right back.
Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality. But there is, unseen by most, an underworld, a place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side.
How did I know?
All righty, here we go. We're taking you to the dark side today. Here's my tie-in with the dark side.
Okay.
Lexie, you need to know this. We spend thousands and thousands of hours fighting the net end result of all the things that are on the dark side. We see the things that are in the sunlight. We see the things coming out of Albuquerque, out of the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Forest Service, this service, that service, the Game Service, and all of these things. But back in the dimly lit bowels of Washington, the dark side is where the root of the evil is. So, that being said, let's talk about geoengineering.
Well, you're correct about it all stems back to Washington, D.C. This is a federal program. This is a military program. So my approach is that we have laws on the books in Arizona and in each state which cover air pollution. And this issue falls directly under air pollution. So stateside, we have the ability to do something about this because there's state laws on the books that address it.
Well, let's address and identify what they are doing to us.
Well, what we have here are unmarked airplanes. My understanding from a senior official that I spoke to in Chicago with the EPA, that it is the United States Air Force. Most likely they're subcontracting out facets of it.
Are we back to the 70s version of Air America?
I can't say that for sure.
Okay.
I don't know. But what we're bearing witness here to in Arizona are unidentifiable, unmarked airplanes that are specially retrofitted with nozzles on the tails of the airplanes, on the rear stabilizers, horizontal stabilizers. This is not jet engine condensation. These are specially retrofitted jets that are emitting these plumes of chemicals. There's been thousands of tests for water, rain, snow, soil all over the world, evidencing the three main chemical constituents, aluminum, barium, and strontium, that also match up directly to patents covering weather modification and geoengineering. So my approach has been, because this is a federal program, and if you step back a little bit, John Holdren, who is the science and technology, quote, czar, unquote, removed all congressional oversight into this program on January 1st of 2011. The Science and Technology Subcommittee was investigating this and interviewing several of the geoengineers that we're talking about, quote, proposed programs. Both sides of the aisle asked the appropriate question about risk. You know, you're spraying chemicals into the atmosphere. Is that not going to have a detrimental effect on people's health and the environment? So it was evident, and these are up on all of this stuff that I'm going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, is all open source. These are documents that are right out in the public, and you can find them. Anyway.
How long have they been public?
Well, when the Science and Tech Committee does a hearing, it's up there immediately. Okay. It's archived. You know, it's there. So anyway, both sides of the aisle asked the appropriate questions regarding the risk, health-wise, environmental-wise, legal risk associated with doing such a program. And John Holdren removed all congressional oversight. And there has been no discussion in Congress since that time. Now, those discussions would happen in a subcommittee created, and the House Science and Technology Group does have a subcommittee on the environment. So that's how it works in D.C. They have subcommittees for appropriations for all the categories. So that's all been removed, okay? That's no longer happening. My approach now is that I have done the research and analyzation that every single state in the union has laws regarding air pollution. And, you know, during the program, I'd like to cite for your audience the actual statutes here in Arizona regarding air pollution and why this falls under that category.
Okay.
Aren't we mandated under federal programs and federal funding that we receive to have air quality checks all the time in Arizona? And if we hit a certain level of particulates, we get knocked down on our federal funding. True?
I don't know about that. That's probably the case. What I do know is that the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has established a page on their website that says contrails versus chemtrails. Their assertion is that what we're bearing witness to, you know, tens of thousands of people here in Arizona that have brought this up. It's jet engine condensation, and that's an EPA issue. They're not admitting that this is
a chemtrail.
Yeah. So their assertion has no basis in fact or in law. They're putting everyone in a revolving door. They're saying it's jet engine condensation. Go talk to the EPA.
Misinformation, disinformation, what they do best.
Right.
I.e., Area 51 didn't exist until recently. They finally admitted after 60 years that, oh, okay, you got us on that. It's out there, but you still can't go there.
So they've got some data up there for some sites that they've tested some soil, and it really looks like there's an old airport that maybe there was leachate coming out of some, tanks, underground tanks and stuff. Their representation there, they're not even testing for this stuff. And this stuff is nano-sized anyway.
And what you're talking about is carbon monoxide particulates.
Oh, it's also dust. It's also anything.
Things we can see, taste, and feel that we know they're out there. This, what she's talking about, there's a whole different set of testing standards.
Yeah, but you can still test. I mean, any test is going to show up that we've got massive amounts of aluminum or barium.
Not if they're not testing for it. You go down and get a blood test, it has certain parameters. We're going to test for this. We're not testing over here for aluminum and all these other heavy trace metals unless you specifically ask for that.
They're not testing for it. That's
what you're going to see come out of ADEQ is, no burn day. Never mind.
We got dirt in the air. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not testing for it.
Uh-oh.
All righty, we're going to
It's
flip
that
into a
time.
break. We need to follow up with Lexie. This is pretty deep. This is a deep subject we're stepping in today. So.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I would like to think that people, and when you have a conspiracy between you and I, both of us need to shut up all the time. When you have this massive amount of a conspiracy, somebody somewhere is going to talk sooner or later. And that's what I want. I want the smoking gun. I want the bullet in the air.
You want the Jim Beers?
I do.
And I'm going to ask her about the money trail.
Well, we have a whistleblower in Chicago, former Air Force industrial hygienist, that actually was checking in the chemicals coming into 2 bases in Georgia and Oklahoma.
That's what I want to hear about.
That's a good follow-up when we come back from Bill Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram.
But I simply couldn't make it on the farm. When the land won't give a lot, you gotta do with what you got. And all I got's the muscle in my arm. Well, I wouldn't ever hurt my fellow man.
Not
and Mister seems to me you
very appropriate joiner from Jennifer and Nikki Control Booth. All right, for a break, you're talking about a whistleblower?
Yes.
Whoa.
Kristen Edwards out of Chicago, she's in Chicago now, was an industrial hygienist on 2 bases, one in Georgia and one in Oklahoma. And she was the lady that was responsible for
What kind of bases?
Air Force bases.
Okay, just checking.
Okay. So she was responsible for checking in the chemicals. And as they came in with the documentation, the source and everything was redacted out. So she became aware of the situation there, and, I mean, she was right there. So, and she's checking the stuff in. And, yeah, a lot of chemicals do come into air bases, but she figured out that these are the chemical constituents that they're using for the geoengineering program.
The lookup screening was talking about billions of tons of aluminum and all these other heavy trace metals.
Right.
For the purpose, and just so the public knows, the purpose for the spraying, in theory, was that if you could, aluminum would reflect the ultraviolet light from the sun, so that we basically were trying to save the Earth, so that we're not going to
planet.
Yeah, we're going to cool the planet by reflecting the sun's rays away from the Earth. But your contention and some of the others, of course, is that 2 things are happening. Number one, we're capturing the heat underneath the aluminum now. And the second thing is that we're also just happen to be poisoning everybody. Correct?
Correct. My assertion is that there is no global warming. These guys are artificially engineering the entire troposphere, okay, globally. So I'm not on the global warming bandwagon, okay? I believe it's a hoax that's been perpetuated.
Al Gore would not be happy to talk about
I don't care about Al Gore.
Okay, they've gone from global warming, now that's a passé term, to climate change.
Climate change, correct. I understand that, because they can't explain the winters that they're saying.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and all of this was based on, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've seen what they call the melting of the Arctic cap. And so consequently they're trying to geoengineer so that it stays cooler. And what's happening is based on the current traditional patterns of wind that we have, Northern California is winding up being a desert. The wind is taking everything towards in the clockwise cycle, and is creating the havoc that we're seeing on the East Coast. So basically it should be doing this somewhere over the end of, say, Japan. And it might help us in California, correct?
Well, at the same time, the polar ice caps have increased approximately 60%.
Okay, we'll talk numbers later.
okay, so let's talk. Let me explain this to you in my words now.
Go right
The
ahead.
reason they have to have the metal particulates in the atmosphere is because they act as the atmospheric conductors for the ionospheric heaters, which are planet-wise. HARP is what one of them is called, as well as all the ground-based electromagnetic frequency devices. Okay, so those devices, vis-a-vis electromagnetics, move the weather system. But the atmospheric conductor that's required to be in the atmosphere are the metallic particulates. Now, we're going to talk about the 7 agendas.
Okay.
This is based on a new book by Ilana Freeland titled Chemtrails, HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, The Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. She concisely sums up the 7 agendas. Weather modification. The physical atmosphere and ecosystem is being changed. An example of that is that Monsanto has anti-drought resistant GMO seeds, GMO being genetically modified organisms. So when you control the weather, you're going to be able to control the planet. Your food source, you can create havoc in one section with floods. You can create droughts as they're seeing in California. California being the largest state in the United States for food production for us. So depending on the particular crop agriculturally, nuts are very huge out there. Depends on the crop. A very large percentage of United States consumption of food comes from the Central Valley of California. Well, that Central Valley is being droughted out. Those farmers are in big trouble out there. And large consortiums are coming in and buying up vineyards there. They're buying up the nut farms. So in other words, the globalists that are connected up with this whole hierarchical system of criminality are able to come in and do land grabs, Agenda 21 style. Now, if Monsanto seeds, which are anti-drought resistant and anti-aluminum resistant, depending on the patent, okay, because there's a few patents, if that's the only stuff that'll grow in that tainted soil, which has been spiked from the aluminum, vis-a-vis, the acidity, alkalinity, it's changing up the pH of the soil, where Monsanto seed is the only seed that's going to grow in there. They're going to control the food system. And you can forget about any organic food. Okay, so that's agenda number 1. Number 2, as I was describing before, John, the electromagnetic operations. It's the ionization of the upper atmosphere to draw charged particles into the lower atmosphere. Barium particles are used for more conductivity. The metals, aluminum, barium, and strontium, act as atmospheric conductors for HAARP and all the ground-based EMFs, electromagnetic frequency devices. Number 3, military operations, weapons. Number 4, biological operations, the biotechnical delivery of biowarfare components via nanotech. 5, planetary geophysical operations. Altered plasma means dramatic Earth changes via the troposphere and magnetosphere. 6, intelligence, C4, sophisticated surveillance of everything and everyone. C4 means command, control, communication, and computers. Number 7, the detection of exotic propulsion systems. And as a woman who pointed out the other night, there's an 8th agenda, and I suppose it could fall under the biological aspect of this, but let's face it, when you're spraying toxic metals and chemicals in the troposphere, atmosphere, it's globally, you're going to have deaths. You're going to have sickness. You're going to have environmental damage. So Agenda 21, this is a global genocidal program.
This is basically vandalism in the sky by the government.
Well, it's genocide. You can't spray this stuff in the air because this stuff's nano-sized. It goes right in through your nasal passages. Dr. Russell Blaylock, who is a very respected and renowned doctor, who was a military doctor, is on the record. This guy's done years of studies on this. He's come full out and talked about it, as has Dr. Rima Labo.
Just so you know, this HAARP facility is in Gacona, Alaska. It's on a DOD-owned site.
Department of Defense.
Roger that, over. All righty, when we come back, we don't have any American soldiers to talk about in roll call. We're going to talk about a couple other things, and then I've got a little clip that may clear up the question in your mind going, what the hell is Agenda 21? I'm going to have Glenn Beck tell you. We'll be right back.
Not to end my life beforehand, but by now I know I should have.
All right, we're back. We've been throwing out the term I have. You've been fairly quiet on Agenda 21.
Well, we know it's
Lexie's been dropping the Agenda 21 term, and on my website, ShakeRattleandTroll.com, there is a need to know section. There is a couple of videos from Glenn Beck before. You may not know this. Glenn Beck is not on TV anymore.
He wasn't high on my list of watch.
Well,
read, or
he
listen
was
yet.
getting into the dark side. Those that live in the dark side saw fit to pull him off the air, and he's been reduced to radio. Not
Reduced to radio, thank you.
Well, I know. It's
RTR.
Actually has a face for radio versus Megyn Kelly. And
we both do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. But, Glenn was, pretty instrumental in some of the exposés and some of the interviews and things that he has. And we've got about a 5 or 6 minute clip here that's going to explain in layman terms what Agenda 21 is, what it means. And at the end, John, I think it's pretty indicative of the things that you and I are fighting on the tail end of this dog. So, Jennifer, if you will, let's talk to Glenn Beck for a few minutes.
So what is Agenda 21? Well, it's easy. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive, this according to the United Nations website, a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Now, where is that? Every area where humans impact the environment. Answer? Everywhere. In everything. Now, how do they plan on funding such a massive effort? Easy, according to the UN website. Agenda 21 will require a substantial flow of the new and additional financing resources to developing countries in order to cover the incremental cost for the actions they have to undertake to deal with global environmental problems and to accelerate sustainable development. Got it? So it's going to keep growing and growing and growing, and there's going to have to be more and more money from rich countries going to poor countries. We'd be one of those rich countries. Sounds a little like redistribution of wealth, doesn't it? I know, crazy conspiracy talk from the United Nations. The main hook to this program centers around one catchphrase, and it is this: sustainable development. Well, that sounds great. And I want you to know, most of the people in your local areas think that that's fine. And I do too, if it was just that. Hey, we want to be able to sustain development. Yes. However, they don't know what's behind sustainable development. According to the UN website, again, sustainable development, development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Well, don't we have to be kind of a prediction king to be able to do that? Let me translate. They want to evaluate and approve and reject anything and everything you do in order to make sure it's for the good of future generations. In other words, it doesn't matter what the individual wants to do as long as it's good for the collective. Hello, 1984. More and absolute control. We have more on what this means coming up, but it includes things like where you can live, what land should be designated for, not by your local community, but by the UN. Here's the Agenda 21 stance on land. The objective, quoting the United Nations, is to provide for the land requirements of human settlement development through environmentally sound physical planning and land use, so as to ensure access to land to all households, and where appropriate, the encouragement of communally and collectively owned and managed land. Particular attention should be paid to the needs of women and indigenous people for economic and cultural reasons. Gang, that thinking throws our standard American legal system upside down. It has a you can't do anything until we approve it kind of sound to it, which means guilty until proven innocent. The burden of proof is on the person contemplating any kind of action. This is called a precautionary approach, which is referenced in Agenda 21 a lot. Here's what makes Agenda 21 different and more dangerous than most radical, revolutionary, globalist ideas. The focus is the local level. They're not trying to jam this down your throat in one fell swoop from, the international body. They're going through the back door at the extreme local level. A group based in Germany called the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives, ICLEI. This is an important group that if you decide this is a cause that you want to be involved in, you're going to know more about this crazy, spooky group than you ever want to know. They're heading up that the local style effort, and they provide all the support to any town that wants to pursue Agenda 21 policies. Not shockingly, George Soros, Open Society, and his institute is a large funder of ICLEI. Due to the crafty and benign nature of the Agenda 21 pitch, which basically amounts to save the earth type message, let's be good to the land. That sounds good. Virtually nobody disagrees with that. Because of that, American cities are falling prey in record numbers to the scam. Even my great state of Texas, in Austin, despite the plea from someone opposing the rewilding plans. Watch this.
Amongst the stated objectives of Agenda 21 is the rewilding of America through the Wildlands Project. This project would remove human beings from over half of the land in America and deem these areas core wilderness zones. Regardless of where your family farm once was, human beings will not be allowed to set foot in these areas. There would also be highly controlled and monitored buffer zones around these areas in which travel would be severely limited.
Do you notice that the main color in that map was red? That's from ICLEI, and those are areas humans will not be allowed in. It's why they are gobbling so much land in the West. In Austin, Texas, they voted 7-0 in favor of the plan. In Texas. California, not surprisingly, is all in with Agenda 21. In Los Angeles County and 5 other Southern California counties, they're calling for more than half of all new housing to be, quote, concentrated in dense so-called transit villages, with much of it at even higher 30 or more units per acre. In other words, it's a war on future suburbia. You want to buy a house an hour outside of town with an acre or two for the family? Good luck. If your area is following Agenda 21, it will not be allowed. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
All right, there you have it. Layman's explanation of Agenda 21 thumbnail. You can go to Shake, Rattle, and Troll website, Need to Know, punch up Agenda 21, and there's a little bit more information. We're going to be adding, if it's not already up there, some additional information on Agenda 21 to get back to the bowels of the root cause of what John and I and the other 21 organizations that make up the AZSFWC are fighting on a regular basis in conjunction with the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Our enemies, the federal government, J.K.
And I was going to plan on having such a nice Sunday morning. We are in trouble now.
Well, I think it's a winnable thing, but, it's kind of like Obama not admitting that it's using the term Islamic radicalism. If you don't identify your enemy, you don't identify their ideology, you can't fight them. You can't win them.
Well, I certainly agree that it's time for all the Islamics to go after those guys. If they are a peaceful, loving religion, to go after the people who are doing what they're doing. We know that. Well,
we don't have any Americans on roll call today, but the Jordanian pilot that supposedly was killed last week, actually, what I'm learning, was killed on January the 3rd, and this has been set out. And then we've got another 26-year-old, Caleb Mueller from Prescott, that's been held hostage, was reportedly killed in a bombing escapade from the King of Jordan. We think that is a myth as well. Intel doesn't put her any place near the Jordanian airstrikes. And quite frankly, my hat's off to that Jordanian king. You kill us, we will kill you back. I'm Don McDowell. We'll be back.
Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality. But there is, unseen by most, an underworld, a place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side.
And with that, welcome to the second hour of Shake, Rattle, and Troll. In the house with us is our voice of moderation and reason and some glassed over eyeballs. But
you're testing my credibility level. You know that today.
We have, I don't know what
Lexie and Sweetie in studio with us.
Well, climate change expert. And you've brought a guest that has been sitting here on a microphone, very quiet during the regular segments.
You, my dear, need to voice out.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you.
You just feel
Thank you for having me.
free to chime right in
Okay.
here and keep digging this hole. I'm getting in a little bit deeper. Lexie, we just heard from Glenn Beck. How do you make the tie-in back to Agenda 21? You know, I can take all the land grabs, the fight, the overreaches from, especially right now, EPA with their wetland mapping. And in some of my circles, I've tried to bring this to organizational attention, and I've been termed an alarmist, a conspiratorialist, but as big as I'm sitting here, and I am here.
Well, Agenda 21 documents are open source, okay? So it's out there. Maurice Strong, who's a major international criminal, was the mastermind behind it, and he drafted the document, okay? So
how long before 92?
The exact year, I cannot recall.
Late 80s?
Sorry, I can't recall.
I mean, he didn't do this obviously overnight.
No. He's a Canadian guy
that explains it.
That got high school education. And he got brought under the Rockefellers' umbrella. So you have land grabs. You have the removal of all these rights. Your example is the state of California. You've got a drought situation going on. All they talk about climate change. We got a problem. It's droughting out. Well, what's the root cause of the climate change? We've got airplanes on a daily basis spraying the heck out of the state of California, causing that drought, taking any precipitation that would be falling there and moving it across the country, or vis-a-vis just by the chemistry of the experiment, which it is a science experiment, madcap gone awry, diminishes the condensation particulates, the nuclei. So you've got it's perfect, right? It's Agenda 21. You are going to be able to control the food supply. You're going to have major people, and it's happening, as I said earlier, going on right now, where certain huge foundations and funds are coming in and buying up gigantic tracts of land. They're also the only entities that are being allowed to do deep water drilling of deep wells, where everybody else is being denied permits for wells. So these guys are all getting special treatment. They're running in, picking up the land for pennies on the dollar, and they're going to be able to control the food supply. So what happens to all those people that are there? Okay, first of all, they're getting sick from the fallout from the geoengineering, and then you have people in more rural, remote areas that can't survive, or in their smaller economies. It's pushing people into the cities. It's stack 'em and pack 'em. So it is part of Agenda 21.
Well, let me paint a picture for John. I know you know a lot of this, and when I bring up Agenda 21, your right eyebrow reaches the extreme apex, and it scares me. But the EPA mapping of the wetlands in the Dakotas that has come out,
and Montana,
and it keeps going. They're, in my opinion, way above their mission statement and their pay grade. They're not involved. They should not be involved in remapping the planet, or at least the lower 48s. We've got Bureau of Land Management involved in their 2.0 mapping again. You've got the TRCP that invited themselves to Arizona to map our state in our benefit, which is all that information is going to the feds. And if you take, there's a, back to the Shake, Rattle, and Troll website, the Glenn Beck, there's the video there has what they call the Agenda 21 death map for the lower 48s. If you take the EPA's recent map, it does a perfect overlay on the Agenda 21 map. Now, you know and I know the antis, the CBDs, the DOWs, Guardian of the Earth, Greenpeace, and on and on and on. They want us off the landscape. Agenda 21 will get us off the landscape, get us into condensed housing, as is California. Well, they've been doing it for the last 21 years. And we're not going to hunt. We're not going to fish. We're not going to do anything. The latest thing that we've seen, John, is the grazing. Being all kinds of hell being raised over cattle grazing in the on the wildlands. They're trying to get rid of that. So it's a big deal. And if you want to call me an alarmist, at the end of the day, I'm going to say, I told you so. You just didn't listen.
I don't.
Now, I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that
to the public at large. Right.
Yeah.
No, I know that there's an effort certainly underway to condense populations. They feel they can't expand anymore, and that they want, as you call it, whack 'em and stack 'em, pack 'em and stack 'em. We call it whack 'em and stack 'em. But yeah, I see that there certainly is an effort to do that. I think there are some large organizations that we know that pass out free condoms in bulk for Save a Bear, Polar Bear organizations, such as the Center for Biological Diversity.
Yeah, and why is that?
Because they feel, as a lot of people do, that the world is becoming overpopulated.
Which is right in the bowels. I don't remember what chapter it is, but in the bowels of Agenda 21, they want to depopulate the earth up to 85%, and that's us.
John Holdren is the science and technology, quote, czar, unquote. He is published and on the record as being a known eugenicist. Okay? That's your guy. That's the guy that took away congressional oversight from the Science and Tech Committee on geoengineering. Okay? You've got people there that are of that mindset. Historically, the elites, people running civilizations, have always said that, we got too many people. They're just doing the same thing.
Is this beyond the Trilateral Commission, or is this the Trilateral
Well,
Commission?
they have all their little organizations. You have the Council on Foreign Relations. You have the Bilderbergs. You have the Trilaterals. There's a whole pyramidal structure in place, a framework. So, if you've ever driven across the United States, which I have, when I came out here to Arizona, there's plenty of land. There's tons of land. There's no overpopulation problem here. The problem is that they don't like the minions. They don't need so many people anymore. They've gotten everything automated. We're pretty advanced technologically. They don't want all these people. They consider us what do they call it, sweetie? They're
cannon fodder? I don't know.
No, it's
we didn't have the technological advances until they salvaged the airship that crashed in Roswell in 1947. We didn't have Velcro before that. Think about that.
Right. Well, there's a lot of stuff they've got that they haven't told us about. We know that.
It's back to the dark side. Wow. Scary stuff. We're going to take a break, and thank goodness, thanks some of our sponsors, and we'll be back.
Is up and the stock market's down, and you're only getting mugged if you go downtown.
Truer words were never spoken by Hank Williams Jr.
Okay. Lexie has convinced me to a degree that there are certain movements afoot to reduce populations. Lexie, how did your background, how'd you get involved with this?
I was doing some research on the internet, and I came across some information about this and a couple of documentaries. What in the world are they spraying? And I went outside. I was living in suburban Chicago. I'm from Barrington Hills, Illinois. And I went outside, and I looked up, and I said, by God, there it is. I cannot believe that I had never noticed this before. I started looking at photographs when I'd been going on business trips during that time period, and there was the stuff in the air, and I had not noticed it. So now, going forward now 3 years, it's easy for me to understand that other people aren't paying, they just don't see it either. Sweetie and I have done a lot of, we did Earth Day.
Excuse me?
Deborah Cochran. Sweetie.
Okay.
Cochran.
I'm just tracking. Okay.
She's Sweetie.
That's
I
my
caught
activist
that early.
Everybody knows.
It's the activist name, yeah.
She's the Sweetie, and she is a Sweetie.
That looked good on your dossier.
Right.
Destination Sweetie.
Yeah, roger that.
She is a destination. Well, anyway, we've done some activism work. We were at Earth Day handing out these flyers and talking to people, and it was perfect because, as usual, they're right upstairs here doing the drill, doing the death dump. And almost every single person we talked to said, you know what, I see that stuff, and I had no idea. People just don't realize. So that's my background. I looked into it, and then I started making some calls. I did some research, and that's when I made a call and had a conversation with a high-ranking official of the EPA in Chicago. And he tried to give me the standard lines, and I told him, you can stop right there. I'm an environmental law specialist, and you can cut it out. So within about 10 minutes, the guy admitted to me that, yeah, this is the United States Air Force is implementing it. They're doing it, and they've told us, the EPA, everything is fine. So I said, okay, that's great. Why don't you fax or email over to me right now the environmental impact statements, the EISs, evidencing that whatever's coming out of those planes it's all fine. And he said, oh, we haven't done that. And I said, okay, well, guess what? That's what your job is supposed to be, okay, from a clean air standard. And you better remember my name, pal, because I'm not going away, okay? I'm not going to stand for anybody attacking me here in the United States of America without having accountability. Now, something I want to talk about that, there's been activists out there and a lot of other people doing whatever they can to help out with this. But there's been, very noticeable to me, the geoengineers, the government, the powers that be, the educational institutions, scientific community, they're talking about a future proposed program of possible stratospheric geoengineering. Okay. What we are bearing witness to is not in the stratosphere. The geoengineers and the powers that be and their agents have been intentionally using the verbiage such as stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, also known as SAG, and stratospheric aerosol injection, SAI, since the Royal Society defined these terms in 2009. What we're bearing witness to is tropospheric.
Mm-hmm.
What's a troposphere?
Let me get to that.
Glad you asked.
Smack me down.
These criminals coined these terms for their intended purpose to intentionally mind control for their intended dialogue. The airplanes spraying us are in the troposphere, or troposphere, however you want to pronounce it. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere. The troposphere starts at the Earth's surface and goes to a height of 4 to 12 miles, or 21,120 feet to 63,000 feet. And if you want to do the math, there's 5,280 feet in a mile. But technically speaking, since it starts at the surface, which would be 0, it goes from point 0 on the surface to 63,000 feet. Above the tropospheric layer of 63,000 feet begins the stratosphere. Airplanes don't fly above 42,000 feet. And since we, except for some very high-powered military jets.
But they're secrets.
Right. And since we see the planes with our own eyes without any visual aids, these planes are well within the troposphere. So my point is, after getting into this, I keep hearing it, and I'm still hearing it to this moment, where we keep, even people that are embedded in this activism to educate people, they keep talking about the stratosphere. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all going on in the troposphere. That's what we're bearing witness to. So, Sweetie and I traveled up to Kingman, Arizona on June 25th of last year to a public hearing in Mojave County at their auditorium, which was videotaped for the public record.
Was Don Martin there?
I don't.
That you recall?
Is he the guy with the ADEQ?
No.
No, I don't know who Don Martin is.
He's a writer and he's a outdoorsman from Mojave County that we've known really well for a long, long time.
Well, he might have been there.
There was a lot of people there.
If he would have been there, you would have heard him.
A lot of people spoke. There's a videotape out.
I watched it. I didn't see him speak.
Well, there's a videotape out that has captured the entire meeting, and citizens all over that county came down there because they've all had their blood and hair tested.
They're pissed.
And they're very sick.
That's sick.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
But I got wind of this from...
Hold that thought. We've got to wrap this up, go to a break. When we come back, we're going to see how much aluminum's laying on the ground in downtown Payson, JK.
Now you know where all the crappie went.
Wouldn't be surprised. You ought to see the barium content in the water.
We're going to test it.
We have it. We'll be back.
Well, the morning's kinda damp. I'm not worried about cutting the grass. Left my truck at the boat ramp and my boat is full of gas. My old boss thinks I'm sick today. He won't have me to harass. 'Cause I'm out here on the river and he can kiss my big old bass.
Everybody say, yeah, James.
I'm going fishing.
What's
Hello,
happening?
James. How are those sea chickens doing since you rubbed my face in it last Sunday? Hello, James. James, are you there? James.
Why did I know you would not forget that?
Ooh.
Scoreboard.
But that's okay. ASU beat U of A yesterday in basketball, so that makes up for everything.
So they split the series this semester.
Well, James, in basketball, how do they cover the kicker?
Yeah, that's right. I think that U of A takes their kicker and puts them on the basketball team each year. Is that how?
Well, like in football, is there somebody in basketball checking the air pressure of the basketball?
That's a good point.
Morning, James.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, we're doing great. Hey, let me tell you about some fishing on Roosevelt, because it is...
I want to know about the barium in the water.
Could be. I've been listening to the show online. It's very interesting. It actually forced me to go Google it and read some more on it. So
I will send you up the heavy metal chemical analysis that is in the water coming down the Camp Verde going into the Bartlett, which I suspect is not any different than what's dribbling into Roosevelt.
See, you guys who catch and release don't have to worry about anything. You never eat any of those fish
anymore. Yeah, I'll be damned if I'm getting out of the bass boat anymore.
I wonder why. That's why those antlers are so big on the elk.
I didn't have any problem jumping out of the bass boat here. I didn't do it in Alabama or Louisiana just because I know what's in the water.
It's going to eat you.
Yeah, right to that. All right, back to you.
Okay. Everybody up there in room country is talking about what a difference a week can make. Last week we were talking about rain and snow, and the sun came out and heated things up, and the water temperature in Roosevelt Lake went up 3 degrees last week. So we're at 58 degrees, and that gets the bass going more active. Even at Lake Havasu, I was talking to some of the guys that were over there for the FLW tournament, and they're talking about pre-spawn activities already happening over there. So it's not going to be long before all of the lakes in Arizona and around Phoenix area start seeing some pre-spawn activity, assuming that the weather holds here and we don't get another cold front coming through. But the water flows into the lake continue at over 200% of their normal rates. That's both in the Salt River and the Tonto end. And the lake level has come up. I just checked it this morning. It is just under 4 feet that it has come up in the last 2 weeks. So,
James, for 4 feet, what does that equate to percentage-wise?
We are at 45% full.
Nice. Right now. And when you went down to the lake to check the level, you used a dipstick this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm just checking.
Hey, we're starting to see that early spring type bite. The fish that you're catching are just football shaped. Fish definitely have eggs in them. They're moving around. You can see things starting to stir down there. So crankbaits and a small paddle tail swim bait were successful last week. We're still getting really good reports on drop shot techniques. That has been holding most of the winter, which is kind of a surprise. But this week, they were seeing drop shot always around brush or submerged logs in 10 to 25 feet of water. So good bite down there. Crappie fishing was not too good. I didn't receive any good reports for crappie. Guys are just saying if you want to go crappie fishing, go down to Apache Lake. And because even Windy Hill, which has been pretty good the last couple of weeks, they weren't catching them. Now, one of the reasons could be that the water is stained almost all the way down to the dam. I mean, it is right on this side, on the dam side of Windy Hill is where the stained water is, and it goes all the way up to the Salt River. So the water flow coming in is a good thing, but it's bringing dirty water with it that'll take a while to settle down.
As you're going in, let's say we're traveling towards the Tonto end on the south side of the lake, as you come around that big main lake point going into the dam cove, what's visibility right there off the...
Right there by the dam, it's still pretty clear. You can probably see down 15, 20 feet there. But if you move back up towards, like, the Choya ramp, you get on the water and you're thinking, holy mackerel, I can't see anything. You can't see 6 inches down there. So,
time to go to black and blue.
Oh, yeah. Always use darker colors in darker water, for sure, right? The other news is the FLW tournament that was at Havasu. This is one of their Rayovac tournaments, one of the first ones of the season. And the Arizona guys did pretty well over there. Josh Bertrand finished in second. Matt Scherer was in seventh. Clifford Perch was 18th. And I can't read my handwriting here. But,
it's too much aluminum will make you shake.
Yeah, it was. But a good turnout. Both Josh and Matt in the top 10, and Clifford sitting there at 18. So we're pretty well represented. And next is the Bassmaster Elite tournament back in South Carolina, so everybody will be leaving probably next week.
Yeah, man. There'll be chicken and waffles in the bass boat.
There will be.
Yep.
There will be.
That's just wrong.
The last thing going around Rim Country is the Mogollon Sportsmen's Association banquet. And Don, I appreciate you for posting the information on the Shake, Rattle, and Troll website. This is a great community type banquet that we have, where there's a silent auction and there's raffles for lots of good prizes. It's going to be on May 2nd. So check it out at the website, Mogollon Sportsmen's Association.
Hang on. Why are you having a malfunction here?
Because that's the day of the ADAAF banquet as well, down here at Wild Horse Pass, May 2nd.
Oh.
Yes. I wanted to go to the MSA banquet this year, and it's the same day. Obviously, I can't. I wish I could.
And just so Lexie and Sweetie over here, MSA is the
Mogollon Sportsmen's Association.
No, it's the Mogollon Sasquatch Association.
Okay.
Well, JK, you can have your ticket. I'll represent you there at the banquet, and if you win anything, I'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, thanks, James. I appreciate that. I'll buy all those raffle tickets and let you hold them for me.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, the good news is all the proceeds from this banquet go to, it gets split 50-50. 50 goes towards kids, schools activities here in Rim Country. The other half goes to wildlife conservation through the Arizona Game and Fish Department. So, good charitable banquet. Tickets sell out every year. I mean, a month before the banquet, you can't get a ticket anymore. It's done at the Mattisdale Hotel and Casino. If anybody wants information, give me a call at 928-468-0263.
Sounds good to me.
Great. It's a good cause, and I like the guys from MSA. I know a bunch of them, and I know all the water projects they work on, which are desperately needed, particularly up in your neck of the woods, because you're drier than it is even up on top, except for 4B.
Right.
And James, I wasn't kidding. I've already been in contact with Chief Cantrell on heavy metals in water and fish. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. At least here in Arizona.
We know you will.
All righty, James. You have a blessed one. What's the temperature up there this morning?
This morning, just before the sun came up, it was 33.
Ooh, that was a little chillier than even Johnny thought.
Yeah. Keep your best on, man. You have a blessed day, James. God bless you. Great job.
Thanks. Talk to you next week.
James Guggenauer, master builder for RimCountryCustomRobs.com. Check him out. We'll be back.
Now they just move me along. There's nowhere to go.
I'm not sure how to tie that in, JK.
Not happening. Although the gypsy part works for me.
I'm tracking on the gypsy part. All right, well, we've got a few minutes to get this cleaned up. Lexie, I want to thank you for coming down and
spreading the word.
Spreading the word, yeah. Took the words out of my mouth.
About spreading the aluminum and the barium.
And the strontium.
Strontium. That's the one
I'm going to leave this to you to close it out.
Thank you. Well, where we were at before was I was saying that Sweetie Cochran and I traveled up to Kingman, Arizona on June 25th. Yes. For the public hearing at the Mojave County Auditorium, which was videotaped for the public record. And during that meeting, there was a lot of testimony by people that live there that have been enduring medical issues. And there was a lot of really intelligent people there that were on the record. I realize that this is the first opportunity anybody in the country was going to be able to put a state on notice, because we had lawyers there from the Environmental Agency and we had the senator. So I prepared a statement.
A lot of tap dancing by the senator, too, on that film.
Right. And
Who was it?
It's Dr. Kelly Ward. She's a medical physician. Her husband is on the Air National Guard. We haven't heard anything from her since that time. But if anybody needs to take a look at any recordation of that videos, they can go to www.chemtrailsplanet.net. That's plural. Chemtrailsplanet.net.
I know Doug's listening right now. We'll communicate later, and we'll get that popped up on the SRT website.
Because that's the website that we're sending everybody to. There's 3 websites on that flyer, but that's the main website. Harold Save out of Gainesville, Florida, has been working on this for years. He's a pilot and is very, very, very educated in this. He's got a ton of the documents that I talk about in my speeches on that website. So there's open source documents. People can go in there and read the stuff themselves. So what we did was we went up there, and I spoke at the end of the meeting, placed the state of Arizona on actual legal notice of the currently in effect tropospheric geoengineering program and non-consent thereto through Arizona State Senator Dr. Kelly Ward and the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality's attorneys Sherry Zendry and Beth Hager, all 3 of whom are official representatives of the state of Arizona. On the ADEQ page of their website for contrails versus chemtrails, they give information that has no basis in fact or law. Their assertion is that the source of the emissions are from jet engines, and this is an EPA matter. Facts were presented to them at that meeting that the actual source is not from jet engines, but from jets that are specially retrofitted with nozzles on the horizontal stabilizers of the tails, of which we have voluminous amounts of photographic and videographic evidence.
Let me ask you on that note, this photograph that I'm holding up for the internet audience, do you have a digital one of these you can send me?
Yes, I can email it to you.
Okay, because it's very clear from this particular photograph, the coming off the tail, if that were in fact vapor trails that become off the tips of the main wings.
Well, let me just talk about that real quickly. Today's jet engines are 2 types of jet engines. They're high bypass turbofan or ultra high bypass turbofan jet engines. They are incapable of emitting condensation trails. And this was also pointed out in my statement to the senator and the attorneys. Okay, so their story holds no water. It has no basis of fact and or law, because they're pushing everybody over to the EPA claiming this is jet engine condensation. They were given full information and new facts. And so since that time, nothing has happened. The ADEQ does have jurisdiction over this matter, and it is complicit in massive fraud, deception, and a cover-up. The jets are emitting air pollution, and Arizona has laws in the books covering air pollution. Under Title 49.421, the legal definition of both air contaminants and air pollution are as follows. Air contaminants includes smoke, vapors, charred paper, dust, soot, grime, carbon fumes, gases, sulfuric acid, mist aerosols, aerosol droplets, odors, particulate matter, windborne matter, radioactive material, or noxious chemicals, or any other material in the outdoor atmosphere. And air pollution, legally, this is the term now. It's defined as the presence in the outdoor atmosphere of one or more of air contaminants or combinations thereof in sufficient quantities which either alone or in connection with other substances by reason of their concentration and duration are or tend to be injurious to human, plant, or animal life, or cause damage to property or unreasonably interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life, of property, or a substantial part of a community, or obscure visibility, or which in any way degrade the quality of the ambient air below the standards established by the director. The state of Arizona's duty is ongoing and continuous, requiring the state to take into account and adjust to current conditions and act in light of changing circumstances and new information, so as to ensure adequate protection of the atmosphere for this and future generations. They were placed on that notice. They have done absolutely nothing.
No response?
No response. They send everybody in a revolving door. EPA. They're not conducting an investigation, and we want an investigation.
They'll come visit me if I light a fire on a no-burn day. I've seen them do it.
Yeah, they're worried about that. Now, in the meantime, I want everybody to understand, your audience listening here in Arizona, there is a standing committee on energy, environment, and natural resources. Here's the names of those Arizona Assembly people: Frank Pratt, Russell Bowers, Victoria Steele, Brenda Barton, Heather Carter, Ken Clark, Mark Fincham, Marcario Saldate IV, and Vince Leach. Those people are the people that need to be contacted, because of the way laws work, you have to go through people that are on a subcommittee that specializes on the issue. And you have a health and human resources issue. I mean, there's a few other committees, but these are the folks that I'm asking people to start calling and not taking no for an answer. This is not jet engine condensation. All people have to do is go outside, get their binoculars out or a zoom lens on their camera and photograph this stuff, exactly what, thousands of other people have done. It's real, and it's happening, and it's harming all of us.
There's a lot of information available. How does one get their hair follicles blood tested to figure out the
aluminum, barium?
Yeah.
Well, you can request that your physician does that. They will run a metal screen on your hair. My understanding is that is the most accurate reading of the metals. You can request for a blood test as well. Every single person that's done this, since we're all embedded with this stuff, will find out. It should come as no shock to anybody. Whether you're testing your own body, your biophysical reaction to this stuff, or what's present in the atmosphere or in the environment, every single test, the results have been off the charts. High aluminum, barium, strontium.
We're pretty much under the idea that, okay, we've got all this stuff. What can be done to get rid of it?
We need people to put pressure on the Arizona State Assembly to run an investigation.
How do I get this out of my system?
Well,
you're a toxic dump. It's not going to happen. We can all give our excess stuff to Dot.
That's awfully strong.
Sweetie Cochran's going to
dump.
You listen. You can chelate this stuff out. There's methodologies for it. I personally eat organic food. I push high alkalinity.
How can you have organic anything with this stuff in the water system?
Well, I'd rather be eating. Well, truly, it's not because of the fallout, but better that than anything that's genetically modified.
All right, we've got to get this thing wrapped. I'm really serious with my thank you for coming down, and we'll do a follow-up on this.
If we're still alive.
In the next few weeks. Oh, no, we have. She introduced me to Dan Kuntz, who's been on air here at KFNX for a long time. We're going to ping-pong this a little bit more on the getting this out of our system. But, again, thanks for coming down. And by the way, the sole content of Shake, Rattle, and Troll is my responsibility, not John's, and not that of my sponsors. I am Don McDowell.
I was Special K.
Sweetie Cochran.
And Lexie Hunter.
We're going to call you Special Aluminum. Yeah. Hey, look up. It's out there. And take your kids fishing, hug your bass boat, and don't eat special card.